My ex-husband would abuse our children when he had custody, a mother's worst nightmare. I left that son of a beach because I knew he would be a god-awful father, and boy was I right. I mean, being right is one thing, because I never find myself to be wrong, but whoever said ignorance is bliss should deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. My 3 teenage daughters have just told me about all the stuff their father would do to them when they were little and would visit him on the weekends. He should be praying to heaven almighty that I wasn't aware of this nonsense when it was going on. Hell, I'd be giving him a piece of his own medicine if that were the case. My girls have been beaten, emotionally abused, and tormented by their father from the day we separated, and I couldn't be more furious. I mean, as a caring mother who has gone through her own poop as a result of the divorce, how else am I supposed to react? He and I were blessed with our daughters about a couple years after we were married. First, the oldest, then the twins, only 11 months after. Granted, 3 babies within a year of each other is a lot to handle, but that's exactly why I needed the help. From the moment our girls were born, he cared way too much about spending his money on that stupid World of Warcraft game than helping me take care of the babies. He was always complaining about the work that had to be done and how little time he had to himself. He was always out in the late hours of the night messing around with women and family friends while I was stuck at home changing diapers, feeding bottles, rinsing and repeating. I was waiting so long and hard for him to change, but he never did. Sooner or later, I had enough and divorced him when the girls were about 1 to 2 years of age. We went to court to address how custody of our daughters would go, and their father didn't even want them at first. He was fine with having no custody whatsoever. I stressed to the judge how badly I needed time to myself, as at the time I was battling a severe depression and loneliness only God could understand through my prayer. With that being said, the judge granted my ex-husband 25% custody. That way, the girls would be over his house every other weekend and I could have time to breathe and reboot. When I sent them over there, I thought everything was dandy and nice. The girls would come back to me in one piece, sometimes as happy as a pig in poop, and it would make me question if they liked spending time with their father more than they liked spending time with me. But I obviously know the true answer now. As young adults, my daughters felt the need to tell me all the stuff that went down while they were there and how their happiness as children whenever they came home was just pure mindless childhood ignorance. They stressed to me how on edge their father always was. Any slight change in attitude they gave him or disapproval of a question or statement would result in him screaming, yelling, and hitting them. He would isolate them in corners in different parts of the house to leave them with their silence and loneliness, wondering what they did wrong or how they ended up being punished. Sometimes he would starve them, feed himself first, or even give himself more food than them. When they asked for more or showed any ounce of hunger, he would degrade them on their weight and how they shouldn't be hungry. He would degrade children on their weight. Let that sink in. He would do boot camps for them to make sure they weren't fat little girls, never showed any interest in any hobbies they were into, and downright would scare the living crap out of them. My daughters tell me to this day they're afraid to even talk to him or truly be themselves, as they're so used to the demonic, scary father that they grew up with. Their father has shown some sort of repentance to our girls for how he has acted and blames a lot of his anger and abuse on the divorce, yet somehow, I find that to be just an excuse. Throughout all the abuse of our 3 babies, he managed to remarry and have a son with the woman, so his life couldn't have been that stressful. He doesn't even abuse the son like he abuses our girls. Not that I want him to, but the difference is shocking. Overall, the abuse towards our daughters was unwarranted and downright disgusting. As a mother, I feel ashamed for my ignorance and not knowing this stuff was going on, as my daughters have strong emotional scars from how he treated them. Maybe my depression clouded my awareness or I was just too exhausted to focus. The saddest part is that he was never always like this. Before I had children, he was loving, fun, and a great guy to start a family with. Sometimes I feel like the resentment and anger he gave me and the girls was him being disappointed that I didn't give him a son like his new wife did, or because focusing on women meant not focusing on his own male activities. All I have to say is, to all women and men out there, be wary about shared custody with your exes. You never truly know what goes on in another household with your children, and sometimes, ignorance isn't bliss at all, it's ignorance.